Hello, this is the April chat with fans. Um, this is another one of those times where I just kind of would want to just sort of scream into the microphone, then like disconnect and go back to work on things. Uh, I got set back some. I was sick for about 2 weeks. However, I wasn't just death's door sick, which like I was, well, not really, but didn't feel like I was year or two ago. So I was able to keep working at things, but it knocked out my voice for a while. So I was just working at supplemental stuff for other videos. I always feel bad when I show up and I don't have a video on, but that's sort of what this is for. Because in the past, people think I'm just disappeared and I've quit or whatever. Not at all. In fact, this month, I'm going to be quite disappointed if I don't have at least 3 videos out. And one of them I'll tell you about right now. This is going to be the longest one for sure. It's probably going to be over an hour. I mean, normally I like to kind of keep things more of a surprise, but this one, it's kind of a gradual build. This is going to be what I talked about in the Dead Game News is Mutating video on the old channel, where you can see it from the website, where this is going to be my first real beginning of an attack on games as a service, like the process. I mean, now, of course, the industry doesn't care if I make a video on it. That's why it's going to kind of lead to other things. I'm probably going to need some of your help. So this video is going to be sort of a call to arms and just everything you would need to know about it. And that easily has more research in it than, I mean, more kind of, has a lot of research in it, but more kind of external links, I think, than any other video I've done. Like, so that's coming. So the other two will be probably more normal stuff. We'll see, but I have some ideas. But so yeah, that's the big one that's coming. Having a few hangups, but nothing too big. So I want to say it'll be out within the week, but anytime I get to a video that big, like little things, I find, oh yeah, this should only take me like 45 minutes. Like 6 hours later, you know, it's still not done with it. So, but yeah, it's coming. So again, this is something that could lead to more things, or at least I hope it will. And it's gonna be my absolute best effort to try to get it to lead to other things. The next, it's something, and for everybody who's sick of that topic, it's just something I need to get out of the way for me personally. Let's see, what else? News. Yeah, I guess that's all I have for announcements. I mean, I guess I'll try to have a play session this month on something again. And, oh yeah, I'm changing the format a little bit of this. Since last time, I honestly thought I was going to be able to get done sooner, and then it ended up being over 3 hours. So now I'm just going for the first top 20 questions, top voted on questions that were submitted to me. And then after that, I'll just pick and choose. If I particularly like them after that, I'll answer those, and I'll answer the live questions at the end. So we'll see how long that takes. Okay, so I'll jump in and yeah, people are mentioning, you know, talking about the movie. This is separate from the movie. This is unfortunately a detour I'd rather not be making, but I feel like I have to be making for the movie. But work is being done on the movie. And in fact, I'm quite encouraged again. I might be getting closer to having the animation pipeline done. So, okay. So the first question that's been submitted to me, it's this looks like a page long, and you know must have about 10, maybe 15 links in here. It's about Article 13. Okay, now it's he says now it's technically Article 17 about from the European Union. And I'm afraid they just browsed this. I didn't read every last aspect of it, which is kind of my answer. He's asking how that might affect my videos or future ones. The fact that this is so information dense and there's so many different aspects to this is kind of shows my attitude. I'm just gonna kind of wait and see what this actually means, because right now I have no idea, and I definitely want to spend my time on other things rather than doing all the research to figure it out, when I know if I wait long enough, someone's gonna, if it does affect me, it'll be simplified into language I can understand rather than going through legalese. The so yeah, but here let's go with the worst case scenario. I think what this does is it like if you link to a news site, then you might be held liable for you have to pay like a tax on that. However, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it only applies to businesses that are making more than 10 million euros. So that in itself means it'll never affect me actually, specifically. However, I release through YouTube, and my website is no doubt searched through Google, so it for sure will affect Google. So that by extension could affect me. So yeah, the question is, how it'll affect future prospects, especially future videos, including the movie. Won't affect the movie whatsoever. Don't worry about that. It won't affect Freeman's Mind at all. It could affect Game Dungeon some, because you know how like when I do Game Dungeon, I'll sometimes pull in these articles from elsewhere, even though I'm giving credit to them and everything. Although it's weird, I don't usually post the URLs. I usually just give all the necessary information to give credit. I give the title, the site it comes from, the author, the date. I usually put all that in there and just kind of purge everything else so it's easier to read. But I usually don't give the links, but maybe I would be found liable if I did that. So that it could affect Game Dungeon. It wouldn't kill it, but it would certainly, I might have to, Game Dungeon would get a little more filtered. Right now it's just, it's quite unfiltered. It's just structured. That's a difference. But yeah, I don't really get this because, I heard an excellent point on this. If you're a news site and someone links to your news, wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you want as many links as possible to have ad revenue on your site? I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe people come along, their news site, there's sort of a secondary news site where they repost something else. Maybe the risk of having less exposure is worth it to them. I don't know. But I mean, that would be like me trying to charge like a penny or something every time somebody links to my YouTube channel or one of my videos. Why would I want that? That seems like that would get me the opposite results of what I want. So I don't know. I'm sure, but like this, it's going to affect other people way more than me. This could actually interfere more with like future Ross Rants videos, kind of stuff like that. But if it's stuff where I don't have any need to link to another news article, then it shouldn't affect any videos like that. So Freeman's Mind, completely safe. Movie, completely safe. Future videos, either civil protection or like civil protection, safe. So, I mean, I can adapt to that, but yeah, and of course the forums, again, I'm not worried if there's like a 10 million euro limit on businesses. I'm not worried about brushing up against that. So it wouldn't affect the forums, on my site. However, it could affect like whether that appears on Google. So I don't know. I'm just, you know what? This next video, I have to get it out no matter what they're deciding on. So we'll see. That video will be like definitely in the line of fire. But I have to get it out regardless. So I guess there's a chance it could get taken down later, but people have ample chance to copy it if that happens. Okay, so yeah, a lot of replies on that. So yeah, it could affect me, but boy, it's gonna, I mean, imagine if you are a news site on YouTube, like you have a news channel. That could just be death. I don't know, especially if you're a smaller one. Yeah, because even though that news channel won't be making 10 million euro, Google will. And if Google says, oh, we can't have this, I have no idea. So, okay. Ever thought of making a day in Ross's life video where you go through and show us what you do on an average day? Maybe as a 500K special. What about a draw my lifestyle video? I don't think I even know what the draw my life videos are. Yeah, I take no shame or embarrassment at all about being like behind an internet culture. I kind of always consider the internet a tool. But let's see. Okay, a day of my life. I mean, I could maybe do that, but I'd want to. I mean, I just don't. I don't know if it'd be interesting enough to watch. Like, I had an idea before. If I had more people I knew, where I have something like that, you know, where I'm talking and then like the door rings and I open up the door and have like somebody big like just immediately just like grab my neck, and then like you see me kind of like stagger and grab like a bottle or something, and then the camera cuts away, and then I'm walking back talking about the videos, and you just see like legs sticking up like on the doorway. But so I'm afraid I have no special plans for that. I try to aim towards stuff with a more likely to be entertaining, but I have something not quite like that, but people may find interesting coming up at some point. Probably not this month, but it was as I said, there were 3 videos I really wanted to make that weren't part of the main series. This would have been like the 4th in line. This is the one I'm thinking of. So, okay. How was your journey through depression? What were your steps of getting better, and how did you motivate yourself to continue or even start? Well, yeah, for those that don't know, I had major depression that sort of slowly seeped in, I guess starting like late teens, like 18 or 19, and then it just sort of lingered for a long time. It was, I mean, the major depression hits people differently. What I was experiencing was a state of anhedonia, which means that, you know, things you normally enjoy just have no meaning. Like, I mean, basically, imagine your favorite thing that you like to do or something you look forward to. Now imagine, for whatever reason, that's as fun as washing the dishes or something. It just has no thing. And like, the only actual motivation I was feeling were like physiological needs, like food or sleep, you know? So it was, the thing is, I had an awareness something was happening to me. Like I could sort of feel like my personality was kind of being hollowed out when I felt that. As for recovery, I mean, it was real gradual. So I was sort of slow to kind of recognize it to the point where, like, yeah, this is a serious problem. And I mean, psychology visits, I had a couple of those. Those didn't do anything for me. Because it's like the rational part of my brain was still completely intact. So it recognized what was happening. It's just emotionally, it's just like, you know, there's like no point to anything. And it was just really, yeah, I mean, it's not really sadness so much as sort of like a mild horror kind of thing. But I later saw a psychiatrist. They prescribed me Prozac. I tried that for 6 months. It didn't do anything. Then later they tried a different medication, Wellbutrin, or was it Buprion or something? Buprion. And that had an almost immediate effect, like within days. It was kind of like I was like my old self. It felt a little artificial, but it was like, you know, 90% there of how I was. And I was able to move shortly after that, get another job. So I stayed on that for several years. And then gradually I just decided to see, you know, just kind of very carefully try going off. I guess this probably, this was, yeah, I guess I was on that several years. So this might have been like 5 years later or something. And I was mostly okay since then. I still can kind of have like mini, I guess I'm calling them mini depression flashes that can kind of interfere with things. But I don't know if I want to have medication for that or not. Like, because I tend to, like, for things like medicine, I tend to kind of hold off until like it's just completely obvious I have a real problem and like need treatment. I mean, for physical or mental. So I don't know, because I'm not really in the mindset of just like, oh, just any little variation is no good. So I'm still trying to figure out like what's just normal human being and what's maybe a problem. So I don't know. For me, it's much more of a physical thing somehow. So Okay, now I'm gonna be dumb because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Because I didn't watch any videos. I just read an article or two on it. What are your thoughts on? Is it Stadia? You know, Google. I want to say it's Stadia. It's Google's new streaming service that they're unveiling, and Epic Games Store. I guess we'll start with Epic Games because that one's a little simpler for me. What the? Yeah, let's search. Oh yeah, Epic. Yeah, I mentioned before. It's like, with Epic. Okay, for me, for online stores, again, I'm a broken record on this. For me, the thing I care about the most is not having games being killed, or when you buy a game, that's it. You own it. You know, you can. It stands the Rip Van Winkle test. You know, like I mentioned in one of the Dead Game News. You buy the game in 20 years. Can you run your game? You should be able to get like an app. Yes, absolutely. Answer. If you can't do that, then it's like I'm just kind of ambivalent on all of it. So from that perspective, for me, it's kind of GOG versus everybody else. So Steam, some games you can, some you can't. You know, I'm not sure about Uplay and Origin, and yeah, let's see, Bethesda as their launcher, Blizzard. So for me, it's just kind of more of the same. That's not ownership, not guaranteed digital distribution. That said, I think it's good that they're having the better developer split. Like I think if they have the 88% goes to the developer, 12% they keep 12%. Okay, yeah. Somebody has a good comment. Stadia, plural of stadium. So, I mean, I know some people are like up in arms about the exclusives that they're kind of paying for. I don't know. I'm kind of seeing the side of that because Valve kind of has a de facto monopoly on PC gaming, or at least if like a couple of years ago they had like, was it like 50 to 70% of the market? I mean, if you look at the number of games that are only on Steam, it's pretty staggering. So it's not, I mean, everybody's talking about how it's so anti-consumer. It's like, I guess some, but it's so much, for me, it's so minor compared to something like a console exclusive where they're paying the developer to keep it off another platform. Because like with a console exclusive, I would have to buy additional hardware, for it. And I don't have the same kind of options. I can't be doing all this funky kind of VR hacking I'm experimenting with, or having mods or something, or maybe it's capped at 30 frames a second and you want to hire. So it's like a boatload of things that's holding you back potentially on a console exclusive, where it's here, it's like, spend 5 minutes on another launcher. I mean, I guess what is, I can understand if some people are upset about it, but for me, it's so minor that, and there's potentially some good coming from out of it. They released some free games. They might be pushing in on the industry to, let's see. Okay, well, I'll reply to a comment here that I catched. They might be pushing in on the developer split ratio, because I bet if Epic never came along, you go another 10 years easily, developers won't get an extra cent percentage-wise. And, okay, somebody's saying GOG is valid competition for Steam without exclusivity. So it does, well, they have some sort of exclusives on GOG. I mean, yeah, they have digital exclusives. So I'll put it that way. Yes, the physical copy still exists, but there's some digital exclusives on GOG. But he's saying it doesn't seem like a valid excuse for the Epic Store for me. Well, the thing is, you can come along as another and maybe survive. I mean, even GOG is having financial problems right now, I think, or they're kind of struggling more. But again, once you have like an entrenched monopoly, then, I mean, you need something big to break out of that. And that's kind of what Steam has. So I see all these exclusives as kind of like foot in the door maneuvers. Now, there's always the danger that they, like, let's say in the future they topple Valve and like they become on top and then they start doing anti-consumer things. That is a risk, but right now I'm generally not in favor of monopolies. So, I mean, again, it's not a true monopoly, but de facto monopoly. If you have the majority of the market, that says something about where you are. So I'm right now I'm seeing more good than bad come out of it, but I can respect that others are seeing much bigger issues. For me, it's like, do I own my game? That's the big issue. Like, I would infinitely rather have, not that Epic is the example of this because it's all the same thing, but I would rather have a store that paid for exclusives that's only in their store, but you were guaranteed to own the game, like GOG, than a game you can buy it from any store you want, but yeah, in 10 years, maybe you can play the game, maybe you can't. To me, that's such a bigger deal than where you get the game from. But and as for Stadia, yeah, here's where we get to the ugly part. I almost made a Dead Games news video on this ahead of time, but I didn't have time. Plus, I think it was that when I was sick, or I might have just been busy. But the Stadia, if it was just a streaming service, like, okay, here's all these AAA games or games you might want to play, and you can download them on your tablet or stream them to your tablet or phone or TV or computer, whatever, I'd be fine with that. But I knew before they even made that announcement that they're not going to stop just there. See, what separates Stadia is that they're having exclusives, meaning that's the only way to play it through a streaming only service, which means that's impossible to preserve. The only way you can preserve that is if you did something like in the Mission Impossible movie, where you're breaking in through the ventilation system and like coming down and stealing like the computer's data that actually stores it locally. I mean, that's the only way to preserve a streaming only game. And so it's effectively impossible. And I'm getting scared by this trend, that again, these games are not going to exist in the future. I mean, a few of them might. Some blockbusters are getting. Some blockbusters can kind of survive just because there's so much effort behind it, or they're so profitable. But I mean, this is a horrendous precedent. I mean, it's like, forget all the latency arguments and how the USA infrastructure isn't there. Yeah, which could very well be true. I mean, to me, that's almost irrelevant to like the big point of this is. I mean, that's why I'm making this other video. I feel like, a bit of a spoiler, I feel like there is certainly a legal argument to be made. Like, see, this stuff, honestly, this stuff that we're doing here, where you can never run your game again that you've played, and the company has sold you because they decided to shut it down, it has not been tested in court. Like, it just has not been tested. So this is gray. This is a gray legal area, a legal gray area. So that's a lot of what the video is I'm kind of building the case as to, we really have to have this examined, because I mean, the longer we wait, the worse it gets. So, yeah, it's a horrendous precedent to be setting in my eyes, because I think everybody who's a gamer, or just about everybody, if you have a game you love and you might want to go back to, why should you have that taken from you forever if it's preventable? I mean, that's sort of the short and long of it, So yeah, I have zero problem with just streaming games. It's like another option. Yeah, you don't want to buy games, you want to sample like 20 different ones. Or hey, you don't want to buy a console or a more powerful PC. You're fine with paying a little bit every month and trying all these different games on just a old system. That's fine as an option. I have zero problem with that as an option. But again, the game companies, they can't stop themselves. I knew it was going to get worse than that. So, and the fact that Stadia has exclusives right out the gate says they're part of the problem. That they're not. Yeah, they're part of the problem. They're ushering in the beginning of just gaming apocalypse kind of thing. So. Okay, is that a yes on the whole sleepover at your house if her mom say yes? Uh, no, I think we got to go all out. To either we have the kind of cult compound, or or just meet people somewhere. We got to go all the way. Either go all the way or nothing. So, Ross, can you give us some stats of what your audience looks like? Age, gender, etc. Okay, I did look this one up beforehand. Okay, so I looked on YouTube. Yeah, although I'm kind of confused by this, but let's see. Is it? Yeah, I'm definitely confused by this. Okay, so for geography, 55% of viewers are from USA, 7.5% are from the UK, 5.5% from Canada, 3% from Australia, 2.4% from Germany, 2% from Russia, 1.7% from Sweden. I think Poland was next below that. And after that, it all gets to around 1% or less than 1%. And the reason I got confused is I'm pretty sure this doesn't add up to 100. Like we have double digits missing. So I don't know. I'm just going with what YouTube says. Okay, so the biggest block for age, 18 to 24 is 40%. 25 to 34 is 38.5%. 35 to 44 is 10.8%, and the less of that was 5% or less. So people younger than 18, it's less, and then people older than people 45 or older, it was less. Although there was a small dip, I remember, for I think it was might have been 45 to 50 or so. Anyway, more people over 65 were watching it than I think from 55 to 65. I think so. That was. But I mean, it was still pretty small then. So, and for gender, 95.6% male. Oh well. I mean, I can understand that for some of my videos, but others are kind of just more general audience things. But whatever. I'll just make stuff I think is good. I'm not too worried about trying to pander to a specific demographic or not. Although I guess I'm kind of pandering to what I think is good, or what I might want to watch. So, okay, yeah. Somebody's calling out that I thought the video would end earlier. I was gonna. Oh yeah, thoughts got a little scrambled. Okay, I thought the video was gonna end earlier last time, but then it ended up being one of the longest ones yet. So, all right. The question, what different areas have you lived in the United States? How would you rank them? Well, okay, I kind of grew up, I was born in, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say where I was born just for identity theft stuff, but in Louisiana. But I mean, we moved out of there when I was a baby, so I grew up mostly in Roanoke, Virginia, until I was middle school age. Then I lived in Blacksburg, Virginia. After that, I was all over the place. I went to James Madison University for a while. That was in part of Virginia. Geez, I forgot what city that was in. So went there for just a year. Lived in Pittsburgh for a while, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I lived in another place in Pennsylvania at a different time that I forgot the name of, which city it was. I mean, it was more like a town. Lived in Oak Ridge, Tennessee for a while. Did tech support on the phones there. I lived for my uncle for a few months in Mascot, Tennessee. That's near Knoxville. I've lived, when I briefly worked for Machinima, that I lived in Los Angeles for a few months. That would probably be my least favorite, was Los Angeles. Yeah, I mean, I like forest, colder climate. So, not what Los Angeles is known for. I lived in Baton Rouge for a year or two, in Louisiana, and let's see where. It was only for a few weeks, but I was in New York City for a while, staying with an uncle of mine, where I toured a lot of New York City on foot. I mean, I've passed through other places, but let's see, have I lived anywhere else? That's all I can think. Well, and now I'm in Poland, so. Okay, as for ranked, let's see, well, I mean, but I guess like the two biggest things I miss from USA are probably, people, having people to talk to in English, and I do kind of miss the environment in parts of Virginia where it's essentially, I think it's technically a temperate rainforest there. It's just kind of lush forest, mountains all over the place. I definitely miss that. So let's see. So that I guess that would be sort of the top for me. But it's not Virginia specifically, just that sort of biome. I guess is that I like. I probably would like parts of the Northwest, but I've never been there. Like either Washington, Oregon, or Alaska. Because that has that sort of climate I think I would like. Let's see. What are some other... Yeah, for ranked. Well, Pittsburgh might be lower just because that's where my apartment got broken into. So that definitely cast a negative light on it. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of neat, but I don't know. It had a bit of a depressing vibe to it when I was there. Maybe it depends like what part you're at. I think it was in the north side. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I don't know how I'd rank them. I mean, Baton Rouge was a mix because it's actually kind of vibrant and interesting there and lots of vegetation, but it's so incredibly hot. And yes, I know it gets hot and humid, that it's my heat tolerance is pretty garbage. So I don't miss that. I like Louisiana's. I think was much more fun to visit than to live there, just because it's so hot, especially during the summer and spring. Yeah, I don't know if I really have a ranking for any of that stuff, but except Los Angeles will be at the bottom for my taste and personality. I mean, the two things I liked about Los Angeles were there were plenty of people. You get a lot easier to meet others, and you're set for life as far as Mexican food goes. Like any kind you want, it's you're good. So those were the two things I liked about LA, but that was about it. Okay, even though it's never good in your opinion, what is the most consumer-friendly way that a company can kill a game? It's what Epic did with Paragon, where they actually they went above and beyond. Yeah, full refunds for anyone who ever put money into the game. And yes, that sounds radical, but if you think about it, the norm is they take away access, they take away the product essentially that people paid for. It's becoming normalized, but I think that's kind of nuts. Whereas, if you're just giving a complete refund to everyone, okay, fine. Yeah, it sucks the game went down, but then nobody got robbed. And Epic actually went above and beyond that, and they released all these assets for it, like all these models and textures that they used in the game. I think that's about as well as you could possibly shut down a game. So, let's see. If you had the opportunity to grow a thick lumberjack beard, would you? I have that opportunity every day. In fact, it's more like I have to hold it back. I don't know if I'll do that. Maybe for like significantly loose hair, going bald, maybe I'll just kind of go and I'll start doing it then, kind of make it look like all my hair fell from the top of my head to, my chin. So I don't know, maybe. That's the path of least resistance. So, what are the top 3 things that have defined you into who you are today? Jeez. Who am I? I keep thinking back to this isn't what defines me, but this is how I look at it. I keep thinking back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where they get, I think it's like this psychologist, they're talking about Zaphod Beeblebrox, and he's saying, well, Zaphod's just this guy, you know? I mean, that's kind of how I think of it. Things that define me. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I like games and movies and stuff, but I feel like I could have flowed into different ways if that stuff didn't exist. I mean, of course, everyone's kind of influenced by their parents. So, yeah, I mean, my dad used to take me on a bunch of hikes when I was little. It's kind of ironic because I didn't like it then, but it sort of sunk in as I got older. Now I do like hiking, but although there's aspects of me that I don't really aren't really like either of my parents. Like I'm the only one in my immediate family, like, you know, cousins, aunts, uncles, parents that like enjoys horror movies or, you know, scary stuff in general. Like I'm like the only one. So that's, I don't know, a dormant gene or something, but I don't know if I have a good answer for that. There's no obvious thing I can think of. I mean, yeah, there's stuff like somebody's mentioned, like YouTube. Okay, yeah, that's that. Yeah, we'll go with that for one of them. Somebody's mentioning the clown speech from the Begathon video at the end. You know, that I took from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. That's a good one. Yeah, it kind of feels like that. I'm just, oh, okay. I can think of one. I sort of stumped. Geez, see, I don't know if this defines me because it's like I found out what this was after I already came to a similar conclusion. I definitely can lean on like an existentialist side of things. I'll say that. But I was doing that before I even knew what existentialism was. So it's like I only learned about that later. So I don't know what exactly was defining me. I mean, of course, if you just look at physical events in a timeline, Half-Life had and YouTube for sure. I mean, that basically I was able to, that absolutely changed my life. But that's when I think about like my values and like what's most important to me and where I want to put everything, again, I see that stuff as tools. So it's different. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think I'm relatively adaptable to different things. So. Okay, well, I'll mention another thing I think that defines me a certain amount. I remember in this, I think it was like this elective in college, or no, it was like one of the, not an elective, but one of the optional courses that you needed for a credit was this communications class. I remember them saying something that stood out to me where they were saying what, yeah, that people can have, you know, different sort of personality styles and communication. Something it actually reminded me of the Sweet Dreams song. You know, some of them want to use you, some want to use by you. We're saying some people can kind of seek to more dominate things. Other people can kind of seek to more yield to others. And I mean, these were like the only categories where there's something they're emphasizing. And other people are like neither like that, but however, they really don't like being dominated by others. And I was thinking, oh yeah, that's the one I like. It's like, you're not really seeking to like take control of others or give in to them, but you really fight back against others controlling you. And I can be like that, definitely. So it's not even the thought of, I wouldn't even call it anti-authoritarian, because if I agree with what the person is trying to control and it happens to align with what I want, then sure, that's fine. But if it's not, no, I think it's terrible. So it's kind of like that. It's not that I rebel against authority for its own sake or anything. No, it's not like that. It's just that I think I have a sense of identity that part of it wants to protect itself. So. Okay. Do you think sandbox games should be separate from story-based games? Um, I honestly don't know. I was kind of wondering about that before. Uh, yeah, I think sandbox games. Maybe somebody can think of an exception. Can sort of they're not ideal for story-based games, in my opinion. I kind of like things a little more linear. However, if you really enjoy that story, I feel like having that open up into a sandbox with different things afterwards could be, a lot of fun and ideal. But I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I also feel like I may have to backtrack a little bit on what I said before, because actually, it was while I was sick. I finally spent time playing Watch Dogs because that was that was free to own for a while, like a year or two back, and I grabbed it then. I finally got around to playing it. That one kind of got me more than anything else I played by Ubisoft and that I can remember. And like the main storyline was kind of just okay. I didn't think that was special. It was just kind of okay. But like I feel like all the writing that wasn't the main story was great. Like stuff I'd hear from people on the street. And I feel like it did a better job. See, it was smart. Okay, here, I'll say something that should upset some people, but I'll stand by it. I think Watch Dogs is a better Deus Ex prequel than Human Revolution. Not necessarily, I mean, you can argue about which is the better game. That's a separate thing. But as a prequel, I think because it does kind of what Deus Ex does, where you have like your sort of dumb story, or maybe not dumb, but just nothing that special with the main story. But then you have all these clues and everything that kind of, or the world building through side events and everything where they're not trying to explicitly state their message, but you're getting a sense of the world that they've created from all these little contextual things. And for Watch Dogs, I think its big kind of underlying theme is like the concept of privacy and like where we're going, like for a more kind of developed technological society. Is that good or bad, or I feel like they did a pretty good job kind of portraying that. So it's yeah, again, I'm not really defending the main story. The main story is just sort of this revenge thing that it's okay, but it's like it's all the writing that isn't the main story. I think it's great. And I was laughing at stuff, and I think it actually drives home the concept of privacy better than most films or movies I've seen, because you're actually going in and like hacking these people and spying on their conversations, and that's not like the main point of the game. The main point is like the revenge plot. So I think that's really smart how they did that. Where I mean, that's how you can kind of get a message across to get people to think about it, not by stating it just black and white overtly. Like good science fiction kind of has, or fiction kind of lets you yourself figure out, like, well, wait, what is, like, what does all this mean, And I say a prequel because that Watch Dogs is much better, much closer to reality, present day reality, than something like Human Revolution is. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I mean, the gameplay I thought was fun, but I mean, it wasn't like best ever or anything. And I really liked the atmosphere of the city, like, and I could hack it so I could set the time scale, because I hate that 30-minute day cycle or something. I was able to just set it to like real time, which is great. So I could kind of wander around the city. That's actually when I want to play in VR. Now that I've beaten it, I want to wander around a bunch and Watch Dogs. I got that working in VR and tests. So it's buggy, but it works. But yeah, okay. So back to the original question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know, and I can think of, when I think of the games that have like the strongest stories, they're usually not open world, or else like the open world is much smaller. because I think the problem is like with open world games, you know, you don't get your natural flow necessarily. You're distracted by all these different things. I mean, some people like that, but again, the stories that have the story, you kind of want some cohesion and flow and pacing with a good story, and open world gives you ample opportunity to break that. So you kind of sabotage yourself with it. So I don't know, but you know, those games that do both tend to sell just, you know, millions upon millions of copies. So, you know, I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. Okay. Given an adequate amount of political and social influence, how would you go about solving the epidemic of obesity? Well, you know, I saw an article, it's like a year or two back, that said something like, well, I think the number is something like the average woman now weighs more than the average man did in the United States in the 60s. So the first thing you would want to do is what's changed? And I can think of one huge culprit and maybe a smaller one. I almost, I might end up making a video on this. If I did, it would be a pretty funny one, I think. I think one of the big changes is kind of adding sugar to everything. You know, let's add sugar to crackers, salsa, canned peas. You know, I mean, there's one thing to have sugar as a dessert. It's another thing to just add it. I think I saw this documentary before. It was called like Fed Up or something. It was about like the effects of sugar. And I think, again, I haven't fact checked it or anything, but I think it said something like, if you just walk into a grocery, 89% of the food there has some sugar added. I mean, that's kind of insanity. And it's kind of what? I think they do it because, you know, it's a business, so they're kind of competing on taste for most things. I mean, I don't know if I'd go so far as to saying implement like an exact policy without having, you know, some experts who can kind of predict how it would play out. I mean, it kind of depends on how effective you want it to be. Like if you just want to, because I mean, I kind of feel like people should be allowed to eat tasty food that isn't particularly good for them if they want. I think the ideal solution would be to have it as easy, if not easier, to eat healthy than it is to eat, you know, just junk food. I mean, imagine you could get, I don't know, like some vegetables, like kind of lean meat, maybe potatoes or some fruit or something, as easily as you could buy a hamburger and for about the same price. I mean, if you had that, I think convenience is huge, like for determined, because then, you know, if you have all the same options as, you know, food that's not so good for you or that works against you, then, you know, it shouldn't, ideally, it shouldn't be harder to lose weight if you've already got the willpower part down. But no, it's like you have to go and basically cook all your own meals or find specialist places that are going to cost way more to buy it. Then, meanwhile, you can probably get a burger for, I mean, what, they still have like dollar burgers sometimes or specials, something like that. I mean, it's, that doesn't help. So you kind of, the food industry is going to be mostly focused on, you know, maximum amount of profit for the least amount of cost. So if they can kind of use things that are more heavily processed. Yeah, and somebody's saying it's just sugar in general. And he's talking about like juice. Yeah, like juice is, best I can tell, juice is about as bad as soda, except you're getting vitamins as far as the effects it has. So sweeteners in general, I guess. So that'd be a big part of it because we weren't adding sugar to just everything back in the 60s. I'm not sure exactly when the transition happened, maybe like 70s or 80s, but okay, so that's one part. That's probably the biggest thing. Just, you know, you don't have to stop things from having sugar added to them, but find a way to have enough intervention that there are easy options if you wanted to eat something that's healthier. Because, I mean, I can be an addict, to be honest, with kind of baked sweets, especially things like pies, cookies, cupcakes. I mean, look, it's a real test for me. So it's like if I do have stuff like that, I don't want to be having it's like, why do I need that on carrots or or again peas or peanut butter necessarily? I mean, some people want it with that. Fine. Well, why does it have to be like a premium to not have sugar? So that's a problem. I guess the other thing would be just America. Speaking of someone who has lived for long durations in USA without having a car, I can definitely say most places in the USA are kind of pedestrian hostile, or cyclists kind of hostile. And that's a much taller order, is find ways that it's easier for people to walk. I mean, major cities, I mean, if like New York, I don't know if this is still true. At one point, I think New York was the only city in the United States where the people without cars outnumbered the people who do have cars. It's been a long time since I saw that statistic, though, so it could have changed. But that kind of says something that, the more you can kind of have just basic walking, that helps a lot, too, with obesity. But I would say sugar is like the number one thing. Just figure out ways. You don't have to stop people from having tastier or more sugary food, but find ways it's easy to not have that, I guess. Okay, let's see. Okay, so there was a lot in the chat on that. Somebody's saying add fiber to everything. Yeah, maybe. I don't. Well, somebody's saying they think Americans don't know how to cook anymore. Look, I can cook. I just don't like doing it. It takes time. I mean, that's time I could be spending on the videos or enjoying playing a game or something. So I admit I am real lazy when it comes to cooking. I go for like the absolute minimum effort that I can and still try to resemble something halfway healthy, so. Ross, who are the top 3 historical badasses in your opinion? Oh man. I'm not enough of a historian to probably name the more definitive answers, because I'm sure there's multiple kind of pioneer types or explorers that went through all this stuff that I'm just not familiar with, because occasionally I'll read stuff that I forget about, that these people just did inhuman things. It's just like, that they're just invincible. So I don't know those many. I'd have to add Teddy Roosevelt to the list, though. I mean, he's the one. I mean, he's one who just basically charged up gunfire in the Spanish-American War. I think even when he was president, he used to play volleyball with his members of staff with a medicine ball, which is like a real heavy kind of exercise things. He used to go on hikes in straight lines, like foraging through the forest. I think maybe his most. I think his most badass moment, though, was I think when he was campaigning later, I think it was like for the Bull Moose Party, he got friggin' shot in the lung. But he went and finished his speech, then went and got medical attention. I mean, it's like, and also he was a sickly youth. He just decided like, no, I'm not gonna have it. I'm gonna toughen myself up and just overcome all this. And he did, pretty much. So just through intense exercises, made his lungs stronger, and just, Teddy Roosevelt is just awesome. Okay, who's the number 2 then? Well, let's see, maybe I'll see some suggestions in the comments, but I'm trying to think. Well, okay. Oh, geez, I forgot his name. All right, give me a second. He's the He's that German officer who almost overthrew the Third Reich. Almost assassinated Hitler and Himmler and his cabinet, and tried to like restore Germany to sanity, like in the middle of. I forget. They made a movie off of him. Was it Valkyrie? Stauffenberg. Okay. So yeah, Klaus von Stauffenberg. I mean, that guy was pretty. I heard the movie even downplayed like how badass he was, because apparently he, got injured during World War II, and he refused. Although I've heard this can be more common for Germans, that he refused anesthesia, just toughed it out. The ringleader of the Valkyrie operation. I mean, that takes guts to go against like a dictator that's taken over your country, knowing that you're just dead 6 ways to Sunday if anything goes wrong, and it's a long shot, and like, the odds are against you, but it's just duty that, you're seeing how awful it was that what Hitler was doing. I'd say he's certainly a qualifier for the list. Yeah, somebody's mentioning there was a during World War II took Belgrade with 6 men. See, I'm sure there's loads of like World War II stories or other wars where these people are just incredibly tough or hardcore. But yes, I would say that'd be a good candidate, Stauffenberg. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a third one now. Well, I mean, I guess in sheer survival, you could go with Rasputin. But, geez, I'm trying to think of that. See, my memory's getting hazy on this. I want to say there was like one of those early explorers who it was either like they went to the Arctic or the jungle or something, like places where people hadn't been in like ever, or else hundreds of years or something. I don't know. I'm trying to see, because I think to be badass, you have to be in a situation where, like, normal. Not only is a regular person not going to survive, but it's just almost like you're overcoming everything through sheer force of will. I mean, yeah, luck plays a part of it, and something happened to you that, that kind of proves your toughness. Yeah, I don't know. And I think it's also good if you have some sort of driving force behind you that if you have some principle that's kind of pushing you also. I think that's good. But I don't know. I'm not sure for number 3. I'm too rusty on history and names. Are there any games that are too weird or strange, even for your standards? Yeah, plenty. I'm not looking for the weirdest possible games, believe it or not. It's more, again, well, I think I mentioned Armed and Delirious. It's like a spice, If it's a good game, but we make it kind of weird, and like, all right, it's great. But you don't. I'm not looking for maximum weirdness, believe it or not. So I'm trying to think of ones that are like. Let's see what. You know what? I probably haven't played many of them because I could tell just from the screenshots of the presentation they're too weird. But if it's like weird and has like a good sense of humor, I can like that. Or if it's just kind of weird to throw an otherwise more normal game to throw you off, that can be. Yeah, somebody's saying, have you ever played LSD in the PlayStation 1? No, I haven't. That might be an example of one I'm not really seeking. I haven't played it, but was it Seaman for the Dreamcast? That doesn't look like something I'm particularly would want to play. I mean, it has Leonard Nimoy doing the voiceover, but it's pretty weird, and I don't know. It's just not really a place I'm seeking to be. I'm not against weird in and of itself, but Well, no, I like weird, but you know, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. You know, I'm not on the extreme end of the weirdness aficionados. Oh yeah, this is a good question. What is your opinion on AI getting used in game design? And then he's mentioning the ESR gun. I think there's another one that begins with an S that's a competitor. And it's talking about like this texture upscaling. What are your opinions on this and AI in general? Do you think it will be much easier to create games in the future? And what would you personally like to have a trained neural network for? Oh man, that's a good question. Yeah, well, first those textures. That's it's pretty neat what they're doing, especially because they're taking a lot of these old, particularly PlayStation games, but also like old DOS games or things like that, and they're running them through a neural network or training them, and to try to get an enhanced texture. And it's some of the results are really impressive. I saw the screenshots for textures from Heretic not long ago, and some of them look really good. Yeah, actually, he mentions here in the post Legend of Kyrandia. I was like, oh wow, they did that for Kyrandia. Apparently, Legend of Kyrandia is an example where it's gone wrong, where the AI's gone wrong. It looked pretty horrendous for Legend of Kyrandia, the sample I saw. Yeah, somebody's mentioned Hexen also. Yeah, that can be pretty neat. There's, I kind of feel like it's almost wasted on games that are like were pixel art from the beginning, because I sort of like the pixel art look. But if it's games where it's just like a painting or a rendering and it was just low resolution, then it's great for that. But as far as like visuals go, having enhanced, I found that like as games look better and better, enhanced textures aren't necessarily what I care the most about. Like lighting, I care about way more. Like, and even then, not completely accurate lighting, but you know, like having shadows in the right place or color lighting here. You know, good art direction that might have been too intensive for old games. Or having details. I like details. So you have like leaves in the gutter or cracks on the sidewalk, or just more trees, you know, because it's a forest, and weeds and ferns and everything. So even if they're low definition or higher definition, having the details, because we have more rendering power now, I appreciate stuff like that more. If the textures are really bad, then yeah, but I think we're way past that now these days. But yeah, as for AI, so just having higher resolution, it's not like the promised land for me. I actually, yeah, I'd actually, for some real old games, I'd rather have high resolution. Like for Quarantine, I'd love to have, you know, just higher resolution so I can kind of see the world better. Or rendering distance. That's another thing I appreciate a lot more than texture detail, because then you can see like that lighthouse way off in the distance rather than having it pop in once you get closer. I guess things that kind of, textures are nice, but they're not the thing that does it for me. But yeah, for AI, man, AI training, like with the neural networks and deep learning and stuff, that might be one of the most exciting places in programming right now. I mean, for what could happen. I mean, I absolutely think it'll make things easier, or else better in some ways. Like, well, I mentioned Watch Dogs earlier. Look, I mean, this could be many years off, but it's not out of, well, actually, I was thinking even for something like the movie, it's not out of sight that, like way in the future, that you could literally sit down, like tell the computer, okay, I want a cityscape environment, more like this time period, more like this region, and it would start generating. And then if you wanted more specifics, you tell, okay, now have people doing normal things. Okay, have people running this way. Okay, have them look more scared or run faster, more people stumbling. I think it could almost generate all that. I mean, this is way off. It can make making things like movies or games like drastically easier. However, it could also get kind of locked down too, where the technology, maybe there's a company that does this and then they get bought out by a bigger conglomerate and you can only rent it out to, for like tens of thousands of dollars a year or something like that. So that could kind of stifle how much gets made with it. Yeah, what would I personally like to have trained neural network for? That stuff I'm talking about, that's probably much farther off than what I would use for. I mean, I'd be happy to use it for things like that, but who knows when that'll show up. Yeah, the things I would like, I think my number one would have to be, I think there's been some with this already, converting video footage into a 3D model or even an environment. They've done that with some for objects, but I think NVIDIA released a video where they were just essentially just showing car footage, driving down the city, and they fed it, tons of footage, and it was generating a 3D a textured 3D model based off of that. It looked pretty good for an AI guessing. It looked really good. I could use that for all kinds of things. I mean, yeah, it's not gonna be perfect, but let's see. I mean, I kind of mentioned the 3D and VR videos. I want to look. There are all kinds of games where, man, I want to go into that world. I want to, put on a VR headset and be like it's really there. For some 3D games, I can run it through Vortex and get access to it that way, but sometimes it's bugged or sometimes it won't work. For something like that could be a really promising kind of secondary option where it's like, all right, I just feed it a bunch of footage, and it can kind of extrapolate what the map looks like, and then I can walk around it in like an Unreal Engine or something. And the thing is, you might be able to train it really well because for the games that do support stereoscopic rendering or VR rendering, you could just have like the exact same paths, feed it a bunch of footage where, okay, here's the 2D footage, the default 2D, and here's the rendered VR footage that you should be learning from, And if you fed that into a bunch, you could have potentially really impressive results. Man, I want to visit like all these different game worlds, guys. So if I can get that into some sort of engine, however I get there, it's so that would be my number one by far. So let's see. Somebody's talking. Are you talking about photo scanning? No, this is different. This is you feed it lots of footage. So again, let's say you have a game that supports VR. Let's say Skyrim VR. And let's say you can recreate the exact same conditions, like same time of day, same path, so the footage is identical. You feed it like all this stereoscopic footage, like so the AI knows that this is the goal. This is what you should try to shape these pixels like. And then you give it the 2D footage as a reference and just feed it in just as much footage as you can. Or, get globally. So it starts to recognize these patterns as to probably, well, if it sees a bush, it recognizes the probability that this is a bush, and it kind of sees how it's operating in motion, like where the pixels are based off of that, and it determines patterns as to how it figures it out, and then it generates a 3D model based off its best guess. And the more data it has to work with, and the more it's been properly trained, the higher your odds are of getting something that resembles the actual video the actual 2D video footage you were looking at in an actual 3D world that you could have in Unreal or Unity or something. And then once it's there, it's easy to put in a VR. So, yeah, I'm real excited about that stuff. I hope it. Can you link to the videos, Ross? Okay, I'll do that in the chat. There was one. Okay, yeah, but yeah, there was another NVIDIA video that had that I thought something was neat, where they had just somebody doing just these real basic kind of landscape drawings, like a kid could probably do this level. Just a green blob's your hill, blue blob's your sky. Maybe here's a brown blob for your mountain or something, and then they ran the footage on that through this AI kind of painting program thing they had, and it looked it looked pretty good. It looked like it might have halfway realistic kind of thing. I actually wanted to do this with something. I actually had this idea a while back where there's a lot of old like Commodore 64 games or that era where it's just real simple colors, but like a lot of RPGs especially, where you might see like a lake, here's a mountain, but like it's so basic with the pixel art. I had the idea of like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to make like a painting out of that and turn it into something. Well, it looks like with this AI stuff, I may not even have to wait on that. I could just say, all right, here, turn this into a painting, and this blobby, low-colored pixel lake could turn into something that looks kind of like the real thing. So that'd be neat. Another thing I would want to use it for, actually, I was thinking of mentioning this as a side note in one of the videos I was going to do, but I can mention it now. The card game, Magic the Gathering, has just loads of fantastic artwork. And sometimes the artists will put up the art online that you can download and access, like the high resolution stuff, but a lot of them you can't, or at least not that I'm aware of. I mean, sometimes people will like scan the cards, but you can still kind of, I'd love to have a lot of those as wallpapers, but the resolution isn't really high enough for that to look very good. I mean, just for normal scaling. But I was thinking, oh man, that would be perfect for AI training because, again, for the examples where you have the art, the actual high resolution artist painting, you could show the AI, okay, here's the card scan, here's what it should look like, try to figure it out and just feed that a whole bunch of examples, and then it could then you could say, okay, now I want this at 1080 or 4K or something, and the AI could take its best guess at trying to render it. You could have higher detail than what even exists on the card. I mean, I'm sure there's a vault somewhere, I guess Wizards of the Coast, that has all the originals or scans of them or something for that, but I think the public doesn't have access to most of that. I really like how the lands look in that. I'd love to have like this giant pack of I'd love to have this giant pack of like these high resolution kind of wallpaper quality scans of cards I like. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody's working on that right now. But yeah, if somebody wants to help with that, let me know, because I'm not. It depends. Like, I don't think I really have time to necessarily be training the AI. I have too much other stuff I need to do. But I'd love. I could have like a wish list of cards I'd like high resolution versions of, or the artwork on the cards that would make great wallpapers. And actually, another thing for the AI I'd like to do, though this is more minor, some old games would have the game music. Yeah, actually, I think somebody's quick to point out that the music in Apocalyptica wasn't encrypted. It was just sort of buried in a way I couldn't figure out how to extract. But there were a whole lot of games in the late 90s, early 2000s, but mostly mid to late 90s, that they would use 22 kilohertz ACM wave files. This is before MP3 was making the scene. And they sound rough. Sometimes they'd be in mono. I think I read about how they were using AI to kind of restore mono recorded songs to stereo. Well, I imagine you could do something similar, but to do 22 kilohertz to 44 kilohertz or something, and kind of take its best guesses at filling in the gaps. So you could actually have a remaster of music where the only versions are these kind of crappy ACM wave files, and they might sound pretty good potentially. So that's another thing that I wouldn't mind doing. There's not too many games, especially now that Rama I got access to like the closer to CD quality Rama music. That takes some of the sting out. That I was able to get access to that, but some stuff that doesn't even exist now. So that would be your only chance, really, at like an enhanced version of the music. But yeah, there's a when it comes to multimedia and gaming and video in general, there's loads of potential with AI. I mean there are for other things too, but yeah, I may have to backtrack a little bit what I said in that robot jobs video where I didn't think art jobs were in danger. I mean, if you need real specialized and original stuff for art, I don't think AI is going to cut it. But if you, yeah, it's looking like we're getting closer where if you just need, like, okay, I want my company's building at sunset or something, or a logo, who knows? AI might be getting closer. So it's a real neat field that's happening with AI. So. Okay, they're talking about the magic cards and the thing. Yeah, the lands especially. That's what I like about the magic card game is like you look at the artwork, it gets your imagination working, you know. And again, some of them are just gorgeous, you know, that the art they portray of the area. So, okay, what can we expect to be a regular schedule for uploads? Oh god. You said before that coming up with improv is the longest part of Freeman's mind process. Is this still true? Yes, although I can occasionally hit snags with Freeman's mind with the engine. Is there anything consistently interesting about Ross's game dungeon process? Okay, so that's like 3 questions or something. I'm sorry, regular schedule, no. I was thinking about this. But like this, regular schedule, no. More videos, yes. I'm absolutely willing to commit to more. But regular, I mean, I was thinking in order for me to, like, this video is what I can commit to regularly. You know, if I'm just getting up in front of a camera and talking, okay, I can do that regularly. But I try to not have too much of that because I don't want to just drown out the videos that might be more worth watching. I don't know if anybody actually has ideas about this. I was thinking what I might be okay with is if people just wanted, I mean, I don't know if I really want to do reaction videos or something, but like maybe thoughts. I try to, I guess I catch up on if people want to know my thoughts on a certain topic in these videos, but if someone just wanted more throwaway videos, maybe what I could do is upload those to Accursed Farms junk, but then just keep the normal channel as it is. You know, Freeman's Mind, Raw's Game Dungeon, other miscellaneous videos that, you know, took editing, writing, you know, production. I might be all right with that. I mean, yeah, they want to get as many views, but I don't want to tank the quality of the channel, you know, because I try to look at it from somebody who may discover the channel and they start clicking on things. Well, if it's just a bunch of me saying, you know, talking to a camera, I mean, that's why I bury the old video chats. They're all still there. They're just unlisted because I don't want them to, you know, flood the channel of something that took more effort. So yeah, maybe. Let's see. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I could commit to a regular schedule. Otherwise, I'll have those situations where I'm just working around the clock for, man, I do not want to have situations where I'm doing an all-nighter or 2 because I'm just trying to make a deadline. There's so much work left to do on a video. So if I can avoid that, I want to. Sorry. But, oh yeah, he had other questions. Oh yeah, anything consistently interesting about the game dungeon process? I don't know. I mean, I kind of go. I'd say not consistently interesting. I mean, put it like this: all the most interesting stuff makes it into the video. Like when I did a new beginning, the kicker at the end, that was not planned, you know. But it's like, oh, okay, I'll find a spot for something like that happening in the video. You know, it's so yeah. I'd say all the most interesting part is making it to the video. You're not missing anything good for Game Dungeon. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one. They're asking about a part of Half-Life 2 that they're wondering how I'm gonna handle it. I'll just let you know I have a plan. So for that, I don't like giving spoilers about how things are gonna go down in Freeman's mind. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Have you tried Depth 3D? Oh yeah, by the way, I haven't been keeping count. I just asked the chat at the beginning, like, what's the 20th question? So I'm gonna stop there. Looks like there's a couple more. Have you tried Depth 3D? Yeah, yes I have. That's a sort of a shader thing or some sort of add-on for reshade that it converts game footage to stereoscopic 3D using depth map, I think. I did try it, but not on that many games. By all means, email me about this, but my impression was that the 3D effect was so weak that there was almost no point. See, for me, it's like all the way. It's like, I'd rather have just 2D than just real weak 3D. That was my big issue with 3D movies, is that, no, this just isn't good enough. Let's go all the way. You know, if you compare, maybe I just have bad luck in the ones I tried. That's what I was saying. If there's any games that depth 3D is just great on, the depth looks great, let me know, and I'll try that out. And then, because that'd be great to have more options. But it didn't seem to cut it for me. But yeah, I mean, again, maybe I just viewed them in bad setups, but compare a 3D movie to just any game that's made for VR. You know, just looking at the depth, and it's like a night and day difference, in my opinion. But maybe it's the true setup. Okay, somebody's saying it's not. Okay, Z-Buffer 3D sucks, not true stereoscopic 3D. Well, there we go. I'm afraid I need the real thing. So, well, that's why AI could be good, because it may not get everything right, but the 3D would be real if you did that. So, but yeah, if there's any games that it's great for, but let me know. Because I'd love to have more options other than just Vorpex. I mean, Vorpex is great when it works and when it doesn't have bugs. Like, actually in Watch Dogs, I'm not even sure I can fix this. Maybe I can hack things around. Like, there were two big problems I saw. One was the shadows were kind of different for each eye, and that didn't look very nice. Like, I might be able to get around that one. Another one, which I may not be able to get around, is at night, things start getting really distorted. Like, there might have, I can't remember if there was like flashing or something. I don't think I'm going to be able to play that game at VR at night. But, so, yeah, it's more options would be good. Has there been any game you've been so excited about you could not go with your play older video games kind of mindset? Not that I can think. Well, I guess, okay, I guess this sort of, I wasn't like front in line. It's just I kept waiting, and then I finally just like, okay, I want to play this. Path of Exile. I wanted to wait until it reached 1.0. You know, or official full release, and it was just in beta, but time just kept going on, and it was still in beta, so it's like, all right, I gotta play it. I have mixed feelings about that, because it got a lot better in 1.0 once they added the other acts. But in general, no. Let's see. Somebody's mentioning Cyberpunk. Look, guys, I'll be perfectly frank. I'll probably wait till it's cheap, like 15 or less. I'm just, the thing is, by adhering to this and kind of just putting your mind and like putting yourself in a different frame of mind, I am certain I've saved thousands of dollars over the years doing this. I mean, thousands. Versus, like, I'm talking about buying the game at $60 when it comes out versus waiting until it's on sale for $5 or $7, or just, hey, getting lucky with one of these free game handouts. You know, yeah, I usually try to put those on Twitter when I have, when I find out, like, there's a lot of specials. It seems like it's happening like every couple weeks or something, where there'll be a game that's like free to own for a day or two. I've picked up several like that. I mean, that's how I played Subnautica. So it's just, the effects are too big for me to just go for new. And it's like, I've been doing this so long that, like, the thought of this, you know, spending more just for a new game, it's like, no, there's so many other things I could be playing. I still haven't finished all the games on that top 25 list I made a couple years ago. I mean, actually, that's one I might be playing one of those in the near future. So it's, there's just so many options now. Although I'll say, like, as a kid, it was a little different, because I remember wanting to play Mortal Kombat so bad, like, so badly. I mean, and then later Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, I couldn't afford it. So, I mean, I didn't have that kind of money for it. So that was that's the reason it didn't happen. But man, I really wanted to play that one. I think if you're a kid, it's different. You don't have the same kind of willpower as a kid. So especially if something's being marketed to you, forget it, you know. But, you know, as an adult, I've been a cheap gamer for so long that it almost feel like I'm doing something wrong to spend my money on that, because I know, hey, maybe I'll need that money later, you know? That's money that could go towards groceries or rent. It's like, no, let's wait for those, like, let's wait for those big sales and then move in, you know? Let's see. Okay. I think this is the 20th question according to the chat. I mean, according they told me earlier, and it's a question for Magda. How is the book coming along? She's working on her own stuff. I don't give her any. I know how it is if something takes a long time, so I'd give her no pressure on that at all, or try to check in, because I think it would just distress her. But okay, so that wasn't really for me. Okay, well, no. Okay, so now I'm just gonna pick. Okay, well, this question was okay. What is your opinion on democracy? That's not a bad question. I think democracy generally, it's sort of like the AI thing. You know, it's generally gonna give. It's complicated. It's like, it's generally going to give the best results, but I would say, like, the more because you don't really have true democracy, because if you had true democracy after watching this, then you need to go vote on whether the potholes get filled on the street near you, and, well, hey, does the deputy sheriff need a pay raise? And, like, you know, there's so many tiny things that just in running government that, you know, true democracy is impossible, because the input of things that are needed versus people's time isn't practical. But it's I think democracy, you get the best results almost all the time if your voters or the populace on it if they're well informed, they're not being misled, and I think those are the main things, because I think morality, I think most people do the right thing with the knowledge they have most of the time. I mean, of course, you're always going to have exceptions, but so when you look at cases in democracy where that doesn't happen, usually there's some interference going on. I mean, a lot of the times it can be with information. I mean, if you have the wrong information, then you're going to make the wrong decisions potentially, or what I was saying. even morality isn't as big an issue because the majority of people are going to be moral. So even if you have really bad actors who are completely immoral, well, democracy helps cancel. The more democratic it is, democracy can cancel them out. So, I mean, however, what can happen is, you can have massive manipulation of a system where people are getting messages that are like with bad information or bad intent. Like, actually, a classic example would be like, tobacco science. Them paying doctors say, put doubt, no, it's perfectly safe. Actually, there is a game, Ripley's Believe It or Not, The Riddle of Master Lou. It's an adventure game. I remember at one point you're talking to this sort of wealthy kind of playboy character, does lots of sports, and he's talking about, geez, when does that game take place? I want to say it's like, here, Ripley. Well, it was, I want to see, blurry. It takes place in, 36. So, yeah, I remember one conversation there where he's talking about how, he was playing tennis, and he was saying, it's just like, oh yeah, would you care for a smoke? I don't smoke myself. I know all the doctors say it's good for you, but I found I just couldn't keep my wind. It's like, yeah, he wanted to smoke. He knew that's what was good for him, but you know what? He just wasn't as good as the sports when he smoked. So that's why he wasn't doing it. That's like a perfect example of like how it can be kind of sabotaged. So if your information is bad, then you can make bad. Well, in his case, he did it, but if you're given a bad message, democracy is easily sabotaged, I think. However, the closer you get to democracy and informed voters, I think you're going to have the best results in general. I think the few times you wouldn't would be if it's something where it causes a lot of pain in the short term, but it's going to make things better in the long term. Even that you can maybe overcome with enough, of the right information, but otherwise you're probably not going to win over on that. So I think that's one point where it fails. But if people realize, oh, wow, this is going to be terrible if we don't do something now, you can even win over crowds on that with the right information. So it's tricky, but yeah, that's not a bad question. Okay, so yeah, I lost my spot here. All right, so now I'm gonna just pick the ones I think are pretty good, or they could be good questions, but ones I feel like maybe I could give a good answer to. That's a better way to look at it. Okay, well, I don't know many of these. Somebody's asking if since I recommended the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio play, if I know any others. I don't know many radio plays, but one I can think of right off the bat is a Great White North album by the McKenzie brothers. That has Rick Moranis and I forget the other guy's name. They had a movie too, Strange Brew. It's very funny. They used to have like a short show on or segments on Canadian television. Like the movie's hilarious, and like the Great White North kind of, again, it's kind of like a radio show. It's pretty hilarious too. So, somebody was mentioning Firesign Theater. Firesign Theater is interesting. It's weird. Like, I think I found Firesign Theater more weird than funny, but let's see. Oh, okay, well, I want to add something then, backtrack a bit. So somebody's mentioning there's a technocracy group on Reddit. They support a scientist, engineer-style government. I think that's good for some things, but like once you start getting into specialists, you can get a different problem though. See, democracy gets sabotaged by every way because there can be like internal politics that cancel out good decision making, or that's the smaller the group that's making the decisions, the more morality is important. because then you can have complete experts, but if they don't have a moral base, but instead are just trying to get to a certain, like if if their goal is to understand the material and get rich, that's not necessarily, that's not going to lead to good policy making necessarily. I mean, they have to be acting within the interest of the majority. So that can be good, but again, it's tricky. Democracy is tricky. It's fragile. That's the best way to put it. It's fragile, you know. Okay, let's see. What movie or video game has been the biggest disappointment? Well, I think I've answered this one. Again, again, you have to have your, it doesn't mean this is the worst game, but you have to have your hopes set high in order to be disappointed. And I think for me personally, it'd be BioShock, because I saw the preview. I initially wasn't even on board for that so much, because like, well, I don't know if I'm really into that style artistically, but they made it look like it was like a different society. Like it sounded more like it was going to be like this branching, much more RPG-ish kind of thing, where you influence how the society unfolds in the game. Like that's how they were promoting it. It's like, oh wow, this sounds like it might be cool. Like there would be different factions you could join, and like it's like you were gonna determine like how this story was gonna go out, and like no, it wasn't. And then it's not. See, it wasn't just that was the disappointment. It was that combined with, I thought System Shock 2 was better in almost every single way except maybe the graphics quality. I mean, and it was such a copy of that, and I feel like rubbing my face in it because the entire games media was just raving about the game, and I'm pretty sure none of these people had ever played System Shock 2, so I don't know. It's not that it was a bad game, it's just that if you had seen this, it's a little frustrating, kind of like the analogy I would make, I haven't seen the new one, but like I think Jurassic Park's a pretty great movie and a book. So if like, let's say you had seen Jurassic Park, you know, you think it's great. I wasn't too impressed by the new one. Was it Jurassic World? It's like, well, it's okay. But that's one of the biggest grossing movies out there. Like, so imagine somebody just raving about Jurassic World who had never seen Jurassic Park. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's kind of like that for me. As for movie, but that wasn't a huge disappointment because Jurassic World. For movie, I'm not sure what the biggest disappointment for me. Okay, maybe Alone in the Dark by Uwe Boll, because I didn't know Uwe Boll's reputation. I didn't know what to expect. I just saw it as a cheap rental at the time. I was like, oh, cool. Like this could be neat. I like the game. They could do some neat stuff with that. And it really did not do the game justice. Although I wouldn't say this biggest movie disappointment, but the movie that got me to mostly stop watching movie trailers of a movie I have like just even an inkling of interest in, I think, oh yeah, I might watch this, is Terminator Salvation, because that is an awesome trailer. The trailer to Terminator Salvation is great. You watch that, you're thinking, oh, this is gonna be great. Like now we're finally having something in the future. We have this well-cut Nine Inch Nails music going to it. It's like, this is gonna be different than what we've seen. And then that trailer spoiled the whole movie practically. And the movie wasn't that great, but I'm sure I would have enjoyed it more if I had gone in blind. So after that, I generally avoid movie trailers for any movie I'm pretty sure I want to see. If I'm really not sure if I want to see the movie, then I'll watch the trailer. And then if I start getting hooked on it, I might just stop the trailer. So I've been really happy that's been happening, actually. I guess it was like last year too. I saw Thor, a bit of a spoiler. I saw Thor Ragnarok and I intentionally didn't watch the trailer at all. I was just as surprised as Thor was as to who he was going to be facing in the arena. So I realized it should have clicked with me, but I was kind of into the movie, so I didn't I didn't think about it too heavily. I was just kind of wondering, oh, who's it gonna be? Like, you know. So that was great. I was just as surprised as Thor for who he was gonna, and that's because I didn't see the trailer. So okay, let's see. Okay, well, this isn't a bad question. How do you how do you define success for yourself? I mean, I look at it mostly meeting physical needs. I mean, roof over your head, food, relative safety, health, and I guess there's projects I really want to do. Like the movie is one of them. I want to get. I have these personal projects I want to do also. Like, well, one of the upcoming videos is related to that. But I want to eventually figure out how I'm going to sort all my soundtracks. I mean, that sounds silly, but man, that's important to me. I want to have like this musical kind of utopia thing going. This getting back into these VR worlds, it's like I have these goals I want to get, and that's like a success thing for me. Like comparing to like traditional methods of success, like income and everything, that's like the wrong path in my mind. I mean, that's super important when it comes to meeting your needs, because but if beyond that, like, or whether you're the best at something, or I think you'll have a happier life if you don't focus on that sort of thing, unless your personality's wired like that. If you're just someone who just thrives off a competition, or just excelling at the absolute best you can be, then yeah, go for it. But I tend to be happier just kind of having my own goals that I fulfill. So. Okay, well, this is a weird question, but I can answer that. They're asking the music for Heretic 2 working, as in it works properly without any CD. Well, the music for Heretic 2 are CD audio tracks, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, well, it is a good general old game advice I can give. If you can't get it working through emulation, like if you have a CD image that has audio tracks but they're not playing when you play the game, well, I guess some people may not have that now. I was gonna say just get like a rewritable CD, CD-RW, and just burn the image to the disc and then just run off the disc that way. That's what I would do sometimes. I think I was having less problems with that lately, though. I think software got updated or something that was able to get like the Redbook audio working again. But yeah, I guess a lot of people may not have optical disc drives these days. So maybe that's yeah, that may not be an option for some people. So I admit I don't use mine that much anymore. Okay, if somebody's asking a question I'll definitely get answered in a future video. Let's see. I have not played Dusk but I might try it out sometime. Okay. Oh, okay, I'll mention this one. Even though he got 0 points, he was saying he visited Gdańsk in Poland, and he's saying the old city core is really nice. I mean, I'm moved. I'm not there now, but and he was saying he thought it was, once he got outside the main city, the living quarters were left to decay. It had been for a long time. And he thought, went from a cultural heritage to literal third world standards. I would disagree on that. I mean, it's not. You do have a lot of buildings that can be kind of. Gdańsk, I've heard it explained to me by somebody who lives here. It's just like a mix of just everything architecturally, because you'll have these kind of really old historical buildings that were around when, like, there were kingdoms even, but then or ones that are pre-World War II, and then you'll have them right next to like a communist era block that was built during that time, next to something that was built 5 years ago, and it's more like a modern condominium or something. And it just gets mixed all together. It doesn't look particularly great. It's not third world. I mean, there's running water, electricity, internet. I mean, it's. I think the person saying that might be used to a wealthier standard of living, maybe, because I mean, you look at the U.S. There's look. I'd say the difference between areas in Poland is far less drastic than the difference between areas in the United States. I mean, you compare just even cities. I mean, compare the wealthier parts of like Detroit or Cleveland or something to the poor parts. It's just, I mean, the contrast is staggering. So, or just different parts of the country. I mean, you have much different architecture too. In fact, that was kind of a joke I made when I sometimes explore different areas or can travel to different places. I'll admit, parts of Poland almost feel like they're kind of procedurally generated. Like you see kind of the same types of buildings and the same sort of layout and the same sort of landscape there. There'll be variations, but but Poland, it definitely gives me that sort of procedurally generated feel to it. Whereas, you go to different parts of the United States, it's just completely different sometimes. I mean, aside from your, I guess franchises are sort of what's the word, landmark for you. There's going to be a Burger King here. There's going to be a Burger King in another spot. But, the plant life, sometimes the architecture, and then that can vary a lot more from state to state in the U.S. Let's see. Could you confirm the living standard is quite low in Poland compared to other Western countries? No, I mean, it's a spectrum. There is less wealth in Poland compared to probably most Western European countries. But if you've ever seen the movie Euro Trip, it's not as bad as how they portray Slovakia in that movie. That's a real funny scene. So Poland's not like that. I mean, maybe it could have been during the communist era. I don't know. But it's better than that. It's better than that. So let's see. Yeah, and the mold is just that's not. I think that's more of a case of just maybe. Well, I've heard the theory floated that maybe there's some corruption in the contractors. That's the sort of thing that probably will get worked out over time. It's like there's a lot of politics going on with that more than not knowing or not having the resources to build a more solid house. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. Okay, let's see. Question that's sort of going to get answered. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, I like that about the Epic Games, what they're doing. I mean, whether you're for the exclusives or not, they've brought over some PlayStation exclusives. I wish to do the PC, like Journey and Flower. I know I've heard it's debatable whether Quantic Dream was going to bring over its games, but hey, it's great that they're coming back to PC. I mean, Heavy Rain was announced for PC originally, and then Sony came and bought them up, and then they kept it off them for, 10 years or something? Kept it off the PC. So that's great that it's going to come back. Okay. I'm skipping ones I'm not really looking for an answer. See, this is how we're saving time, and it's going to be more silent to me just trying to keep this watchable while I'm reading the questions. But because before I'll be answering all these, and then that's how we got the 3 hours. Uh, I was asking about if I can keep up the fan base if it keeps growing. I'll keep doing these chats if the fan base grows. I mean, yeah, I think I mentioned that before in an older one, that the worst that would happen is if I'm not even worried about this problem, but let's say it was a problem, that there were just, let's say I have millions of people coming in for the video chat or something. I might have to stop doing live questions then, because then it would just like fly up, or it would have to be a lottery system. I'd just have to do the most voted questions. Okay, let's see. I'm not keen on answering most of these. It's just, I could give it a answer, but it's like, well, like, I was excited about the AI question, so I would have answered that even if it had been low voted. But it's like, I'd rather, I'm making this more democratic. I'm going towards the top voted ones. Let's see. Oh, okay. Somebody's calling me out on the Life is Strange review. He's saying how Max shouldn't have saved Chloe. I was watching the review with a friend of mine. He said, I'd like to see him actually go through with that in real life. Yeah, okay. Well, that's the thing. It's basically, would you really let someone die to change the social structure of a high school, even if they were hella annoying? No. I mean, well, if I thought my own life was at risk, like if I thought like there is a very high chance I'm gonna get my brains blown out if I'm trying to rescue this person, maybe. I'll be honest. I mean, but other than that, no. I'm looking at this from a game perspective. I mean, you got to realize somebody wrote that for them to point the gun at them. That's not that didn't just, it's not a natural event, and the game was already kind of like losing me by that point. So it's like, what? Hey, why don't we spice this game up? It's a story. It's fiction. It's, in fact, I think there was like an Onion article or a headline I saw before that said something like, writer doesn't have the guts to kill any of his characters or something like that. And so it's like that. I mean, you shouldn't confuse that. I mean, real life typically isn't as fun as fiction. So that's why I was saying that completely from a what? Yeah, talking from a gameplay perspective or a story writing thing. I'm not like, okay, other than my life, like I can't even think of an easy example, but like other than like I am like severely risking my life to save someone where I might not do that, it would be a situation where, well, no, I don't even know. I mean, this is a really rare situation for most people if you're not living in like a war zone or something. So, no, don't confuse that with basic morality, but with what I'm saying about the game characters. The same goes for Freeman. Freeman, I don't consider Freeman a role model or necessarily a reflection of my own thoughts. Some of them are, but not the majority. I have heard of Epic Games mega grants. I may end up doing that. I'll see. However, I feel like in order to really make a good case and have a portfolio from it, I'll have already solved all the hardest aspects of the movie anyway. So, I could be a bonus thing, but it's also with the movie, it's a little trickier because I would have to release things that aren't spoiling too much. So, whereas with a game, you can show all kinds of things and still have most of the game unknown. So, but yeah, I might look into that later. But again, it's a bit of a catch-22. By the time I feel like I can make a portfolio that could has a competitive chance of qualifying for it, I've already solved all the hardest parts. So, let's see. A lot of specific questions. Let's see. Specific questions that aren't really. Man, there's so many questions. I should have looked through these more before I had this. Ross, which establishment or person is responsible for the tastiest burger you've... See, I just did that by habit. I don't know. I mean, just... To me, it's all kind of the same thing. There's normal fast food burgers, and then there's burgers that were made with actual, like, just ground beef that somebody cooked up. So, you know... to me, it's all kind of like one of those two categories, you know? For me, Burger King tastes the same as McDonald's, tastes the same as Hardee's. I mean, yeah, there's subtle differences, but not enough that I care so much. And then there's, you know, somebody actually cooking ground beef and putting it on bread with cheese and onions. So, you know, fresh foods. That's a good question, but I'll have to think about it. Maybe you guys can upvote this for next time. Which two video game bosses would you want to see fight? If I can remember, I'll try to think about that. It's a good question, but I don't have an answer off the top of my head. Okay, well, this is a good question. 1 point, but it's a good question. How do you feel about game companies hiring psychologists to study their audiences and change their games accordingly? I think that's awesome, actually. However, I can understand where people would be concerned as far as, well, it depends how it's used. Would be concerned as far that you may not want that for games for kids, like because then it's like, again, kids don't have the same mental defenses as an adult, but. I guess on the plus side, I like that in the sense that, oh, they realize, oh, you know what? We should have this major plot point event occur sooner. And oh, this segment where you're having a chase in a jet, looks like people are really liking that part. That should last longer or something. I think that sounds great. However, if it's the sort of thing like, what is the maximum ratio? What is the ideal ratio of dropping this device that will make people grind longer? I don't like that. Like, I guess, yeah, that's a good metric. Does what they're doing involve grind? If the answer is yes, then no, maybe we shouldn't get psychologists involved in that, because I don't like grinding unless it's really fun. Unless it's like, I like the grind in Dungeon Siege, because that's awesome. I was like, yeah, all right, more goblins to bash. Let's go get them. Like, I don't know, it just didn't get old for me. But usually grind isn't fun. It's something you tolerate. In fact, I'm pretty grind sensitive. The more a game expects me to just do raw grind, just something mindless, you know, that's not particularly fun, it's just meant as an obstacle, that can make me quit. That can make me quit the whole game, no matter how much I'm liking it, because then look, that can make me become resentful towards a game. Like, you know, I have that doesn't respect your time award. Like but if it's like the sort of thing where, like I was running that into Watch Dogs, where like a lot of that game is like a third person sort of tactical shooter element. Man, I got pounded once on a couple levels or a couple scenarios, but man, it's like, I kept feeling like, no, I can get this. Like, you know, it made me want to go back and do it. See, that's good, because that's not really a grind. That's just sort of like I think somebody mentioned like a skill wall, or, you know. So, I mean, if I feel like it's my fault that I didn't do it, then I feel good. But if I feel like it's just the game putting in something needless, that this is just, it's just nakedly like lengthening the game, or artificially making it, you appreciate something more, that backfires on me easily. I'll give up on games that do that. But yeah, if they're using a psychologist to just make the game just how can we reel them in more and enjoy this in a way that doesn't involve grind or somehow makes it enjoyable, then I'm fine with that. However, I can understand if people are against that for games for kids. So, yeah, that's a good question. Where'd you get that Puzzle Agent shirt? I printed it. I think that Zazzle or something like that. I extracted the graphic from the game. I love that look on his face. There's still questions here, man. Yeah, and somebody's mentioning the Epic and the exclusives things. Just wondering if they've gone too far. It's like, to me, that's not the right question. Have they gone too far with the exclusives? Can I run? Do you get to run these games that you're buying in 20 years? Full stop. You know, that's the question I want answered. If that one's answered, then maybe I could care more about exclusives. But yeah, I am I'm a one-trick horse when it comes to that stuff. That's the main thing that matters. Everything else just pales. Oh, okay, that's a good question. He's talking about repeated jokes in Freeman's mind too. Yeah, like he mentioned the supplies. I like supply. I remember a lot of people liking that one in the original one, so I thought, oh, this is a pretty convenient spot to reuse it. I try not to have any of those unconsciously. Like, in fact, if I feel like I've reused a joke by accident, then that's a failure on my part. But some are worth repeating, you know? If you do it right, like, some jokes work more than once sometimes. You don't want to do that too much, but, you know, but yeah, if I do it unconsciously, then that means I screwed up. So, in fact, I sometimes will email, you know, Daniel, sometimes assist with the subtitles, like, hey, did I say this in a previous episode? You know. Actually, if anybody else wants that occasional job where, you know, like, did I say this already? You know, you can let me know. I'll email you then if I'm not sure if I've said something in one of my previous videos. Man, the questions keep going. I'm filtering. I must have filtered out like 30 by now. Yeah, well, that's another decent question. They're asking, the European Union Commission has just recently charged Valve, ZeniMax, and others about blocking of Steam keys bought across Europe. And I don't know much about that, nor is that really something I have a strong opinion on. I mean, I don't even understand always why they do it. However, I'll say, here's how I am looking at that situation. Again, it's going to come back to the same thing. I'm seeing the European Union fine them for that. I've, you know, and I think Valve got in trouble earlier for not having refunds, something like that. And, you know, with Belgium, they've pushed back on the loot boxes. Man, we gotta get something going for killing games. I want to see the European Union Commission at least examine the issue. Man, that's... So even though that particular issue doesn't mean much to me, the fact that they're willing to actually charge game companies for something they consider as breaking the law, that gives me a lot of hope for maybe being able to influence things on, you know, companies that are killing games. So we'll see. That's going to be a big part of the next video. And don't worry, after I've done that video, the other videos should be more fun than that. The more fun topics. I don't know what this means. Booplety hoynions. I'm sure it's a reference to something. Let's see. Oh, he's talking about Freeman. Yeah, okay, that's a good question. He's saying Freeman Originally, it seemed more heavily detached from reality, more laid back, mostly fantasized about things. There may be more of that, and he's saying Colonel Freeman is more alert and grounded in reality. Well, you know what? People keep shooting at you. That's what happens. The first few episodes, it's just, he's in office politics. The first few episodes of Freeman's Mind are office politics. I mean, it's like I'm trying to respond to the situation. But, you know, I hope to have like more kind of out there thinking the longer gaps there are without him having to get shot at. So. Okay, people are asking about the movie. The movie is still on. I'm still working on it. It's frustrating me. It hasn't been completed by now, but look, listen, I'll say this. If I was like independently wealthy, I'd be tempted to just put everything on hold and just do the movie. And so everybody like, what happened to Ross? And then, you know, 8 months, a year later, I merge with the movie and then go back to what I was doing. So, but I still have to make income. So unfortunately, it gets kind of split. Oh yeah, see, this got 0 points, but I'll answer this. What I think about Valve and their new VR helmet. Well, I don't know there's not enough specs yet for me to know what to make of it, but it's what the thing that's most encouraging that I do know about it is it's supposed to be 135 degrees field of vision. Now that's not as extreme as something like the Pimax 5K, but I think that's higher than any other mainstream one in the market if it ends up being that. So, what that you man, the VR market's heating up. It's like I keep waiting for like one that's going to be good enough, and now I feel like in my mind there's like a 4-way tie now, and 2 of them aren't out yet. I think like if I was going to use one of them, Valve's maybe that could be one that I would go for because I just want the highest quality image, and if that I'm not worried about frame rate because I can play old games, which I can hit the frame rate on. So I would be looking at either Valve's Index, which I think is a terrible name, but whatever. The Samsung Odyssey Plus, that might be one of the best ones out right now. However, that could be supplanted. The Pimax 5K is the winner for field of vision, but I think it has more of a screen door effect than the Samsung one. So it's kind of like which is better. I wish I could try these to determine which I value, because I'm not sure which I would value more. And then the new one that's coming out is HP's, oh geez, I keep forgetting the name of it. It has a 2160 by 2160 resolution per eye. What's the name of it? Reverb. Yeah, HP Reverb. That one's not out yet, but I heard like it can have like ghosting of red colors. So that one's gonna have the best resolution. Like that one's the winner, I think, right now for resolution is HP's Reverb, which I think it's supposed to be out soon. But man, it honestly reminds me of like computer hardware in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was just one new thing after another, and it was like a pretty significant difference over the past ones. I mean, if you buy a new CPU now, it's not like, oh my God, better than like one, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Well, I guess from a gaming perspective, you know, obviously we're doing crunching, whereas it was like that back then, you know. And I feel like it's kind of like that with VR now. Okay. Is this a stealth teaser for the movie? Oh no, they're talking about like the real-time ray tracing. Look, I'll tell you right now, guys, the movie's not gonna have ray tracing, all right? That brings me too close to the uncanny valley. So, in fact, I got to see some Minecraft ray tracing experiments. I've noticed that, like the landscape looks great, and then the characters look off, look weird, like they're possessed mannequins or something. So. Okay, somebody, okay, I'm just gonna read this question, but I don't think I'm gonna answer it. I was watching your Human Revolution video again, and I noticed there was a lot that I actually disagreed with, or thought was outright incorrect. And it seemed like there were quite a few people in the comments who thought the same. How do you feel about this? Were you surprised? Have you since changed your mind on some of these points? There's no points listed that he. No, I think. I think. I'll have to look at it. I think I was right on almost everything I said. I mean, from my perspective, the different look. I've noticed a trend here. Maybe all of them. The biggest people, the most outspoken people, who just completely disagree with what I was saying about Human Revolution, didn't play the original Deus Ex. See, you gotta understand. I was judging that as a prequel. I was not judging that as a standalone game. So, I mean, yeah, I'd still would hate the use of yellow if it was a standalone game, but I wouldn't have been as harsh on it if it was a standalone game. But I think it's completely fair to judge a sequel or a prequel of a franchise where you like the original game because you're expecting some standards. I think Watch Dogs did a better job of that because that's what they got. They got that, not the overt, in-your-face, this is our message and we're going to drive it home from here to Sunday. It's like they kind of let you figure it out and then come to your own conclusions about that. And to me, that's much more of a Deus Ex thing to do than what Human Revolution did, where they're real heavy-handed about the cybernetics and the stuff. And then they have all this on that. Yeah, the secondary dialogue, the stuff that's not the main story, felt very believable in a lot of Watch Dogs. So some of them are hilarious. Yeah, I mean, obviously Watch Dogs doesn't deal with all the cybernetic stuff, but as a prequel, that's closer to what I would expect. I mean, and it wasn't even trying to be a prequel to Deus Ex. It just kind of conveniently fits in there. I mean, maybe if somebody brings up the points they think I'm wrong on, they can, get more specific. Get more specific next time. Okay, so I'll go to live questions. Type 3 equal signs in front of the questions because it's easier for me to distinguish them among the chat. Yeah, I'm glad I did that top 20 thing, man. Ross, did you decide to make a Civil Protection a buddy cop show because of your college major? I don't think so. You know what? I think there's a game that inspired me, and that might actually be on Game Dungeon later. So I want to say actually no, but that knowledge certainly didn't hurt. And he had a double question. Do you ever regret not going into Leo? Oh, law enforcement off. Yeah, you could have retired in 20 years. Well, not really, because it was never my number one calling. Like I'd rather been making creative stuff like I'm doing now. If anything, my regret is that I haven't made more creative videos. But so I just thought it was completely unrealistic for me to get a career that way. I mean, I thought I'd be just in a gutter somewhere. That's why, and the fact that I won that contest for Civil Protection, and then later I had the contract with Machinima, and then YouTube was emerging. It kind of made me feel like, maybe I should wait. Maybe I actually can do this because, before YouTube, I feel like the biggest measure of success, success, the mentioned earlier, the biggest, your best odds for success in the film industry would have been through networking, knowing the right people, more so than skill or just having great ideas and everything, improving yourself. Before YouTube, I think that was the case. I mean, I'm sure there's still some of that now, but now you can make something great, show it to the public likes it, you can survive, maybe. So, but yeah, I guess the thought of retiring the thing is, if I had retired, I'd be just kind of probably doing what I'm doing. I admit, Freeman's Mind might not have survived if I was retired, but I'd probably be making more stuff like Civil Protection or maybe Game Dungeon or other creative things or the movie. So that's probably what I'd be doing in my retirement. Will you ever make that Linux video? Yeah, don't, just hold on. You know, I'm doing a lot. Okay, let's see. What's your experience with minor crimes? I may, I don't know. I think I better go with the fifth on that one. Let's see. I'll say, let's drop something. I'll say I may have, I could probably have been found guilty of like criminal mischief in the past. I don't think I don't think I ever did anything illegal that was malicious. But you know, most of my crimes, I guess, have probably been just like the result of just being bored. You know, and thinking something would be pretty funny or interesting. Let's see. Someone's asking, what is the best Magic the Gathering deck archetype? And why is it Istvan Tribal? You know, I haven't even caught up on all of them. I should probably look up and see if I just sort of kind of look at them every now and then. I really liked thematically the Innistrad stuff. That's sort of this kind of gothic horror theme thing going on. But the Ravnica looked neat too. I think the theme there was just sort of this kind of like endless city, this endlessly complex city that had some appeal. But they have a lot of weird stuff too. Like I am not the right person to talk to as like mechanics or card value or anything like that. I just like the sort of art and I mean, it can be fun to play the game, but I am absolutely on the casual end of things. I'm not going to have anything insightful to say on that. Yeah, everybody keeps mentioning this Valve's brain interface thing. I don't know what that is actually, so I guess I'm behind on that. That might have been the psychology thing they were mentioning. I don't know. I mean, if it makes Rust, you still play PlanetSide? Not currently. I don't know. It's PlanetSide's. It's turning into one of those games. It's turning into one of those games you want to like, you know, but you're not sure if you do. I'm sure a lot of gamers have games like that. You know, it's like, man, because I like the kind of in the future high tech theme. I like the idea of the big battles and on an alien planet, but it's like I don't know I think I'm like craving more of like a conclusion to the battles. Instead, it's kind of a Valhalla sort of thing. I'm interested in your thoughts on Microsoft's Game Pass model, how it fits with your use case. I'm not familiar with that. I don't have a lot of faith in Microsoft doing the right thing as far as game preservation. I mean, look at how they handle games for Windows Live. I mean, thankfully that got cracked, so those games aren't bricked, but you know, I think Microsoft has a lot to do to kind of win back trust, especially from a PC gaming perspective. I like how Microsoft is making all of their releases also for Xbox, also on PC. I mean, I kind of feel like they were 15 years too late on implementing that, but better late than never. So I like that, and you know, Forza Horizon 4 looks pretty awesome and like something I want to play, but I don't have, I trust Microsoft as far as I could throw them, you know. What do you think of recent Dark Souls needs easy mode discourse? I haven't, see, I'm not, I still haven't played the Dark Souls series. I can say I absolutely like what I've seen of it, like thematically, you know, that whole sort of thing with Demon Souls and Bloodborne and everything. Well, again, it's like, I don't mind high difficulty, but I really have to like the gameplay, and I'm not sure Dark Souls would be my kind of gameplay. I haven't even seen much of Dark Souls. I watched a playthrough of Demon Souls. Again, like with Watch Dogs, there were some hard levels where you kind of have to. Yeah, the idea is you have to infiltrate. The one thing I liked was you have to infiltrate this area where there'll be this kind of mob boss that you have to take him down, but you have to get through his goons, and they might call reinforcements. So it's like you can use stealth, but you can go in guns blazing, but it's gonna get real hard. I was enjoying that a lot. It's very tactical. It's extremely tactical. And I was finding that to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, if it's my kind of gameplay, I'm fine with real hard games. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's two sides. Some people will feel like if the game isn't brutally difficult, it's not going to be. That's what defines it. Whereas, hey, I lean towards the camp of making games normal people can beat if they spend some time on it. And from what judging from the memes on it, Dark Souls isn't like that. So maybe, but I'm not big on games that require a lot of memorization in order to complete them. I feel like if a game wants me to memorize something, I almost want it to be educational, you know? Teach me something useful rather than this exact pattern that's coming at me. Let's see. I played some of The Witness. I don't know. I was getting. It's like I was liking it and I wasn't. Some of the puzzles, I was running into things where there's more than one way to interpret it, and so you kind of had to go down. You had some trial and error, some things. Like one I'm thinking of, there was like this light and shadows puzzle, and you can kind of see how it's supposed to be based off of this displacement. However, the way the shadows are, it's not 100% clear. Like you know, if you like draw like a circular line through a grid, well, okay, well, which grid is it most in? And that may not be completely clear. So I was running into situations like that was kind of annoying me, so I ended up kind of giving up on it. Who's your favorite character from Daria, and why is it Trent Lane? Well, it's not Trent Lane. Yeah, I watched some of that show. I liked her. What was it? The geography teacher. He had kind of a nervous tick. Yeah, I think he was like an ex-Vietnam guy. Like he looked. Yeah, I remember liking him as a character. Well, it had multiple good characters. Like her mother actually was kind of she had this kind of pleasant veneer, but like kind of hidden ruthlessness to her that makes for an interesting character. Let's see. Have you tried emailing VR manufacturers to see if you can get a free headset for review? No, I haven't. I don't. I'm not really a hardware review channel, so I'm not sure if I would qualify for them. But that's one of those things where it hadn't even occurred to me, and it's like I have mixed feelings about that because on one hand, that would be awesome. On the other hand, it feels kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess maybe rude, almost, like a presumptuous of me to do something like that. If I was a hardware review channel, I would be comfortable with doing that, but it's, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about asking for that sort of thing. Yeah, I guess a little rude and presumptuous of me. Again, if I was reviewing hardware, that would feel okay about that. But I'm more all over the place. I have not seen the Spider-Verse movie. I saw the trailer to it. I don't know. Spider-Man stuff has never been my favorite. The Spider-Man Homecoming is probably my least favorite of the new Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So, I mean, I like the idea of alternate dimensions, but the rest of the trailer wasn't really getting me. Let's see. I am familiar with Dirty Bomb. In fact, I had footage of that in one of my videos. I think it was one of the VR ones, or maybe the VR follow-up. Yeah, it's free to play. There's no end-of-life plan after the servers are shut down. Oh, they shut down at the end of the year. I didn't know that. Yeah, it is going to be a dead game. Man, well, somebody, hey, you want to do me a favor? Somebody figure out how to preserve those maps in some way. Because those maps are, I'd love to walk through those in VR. You know, I mean, they look great. So, yeah, meanwhile, that same company made Brink. You can play that. Because I don't think it uses that kind of model. Well, no, I'm sure it doesn't, at least for single player. For online, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's... This is an epidemic, you know, a gaming epidemic. That's why I'm taking the time out to make this other video. I'm gonna give this my absolute best chance to try and like stop the practice. And this video is like the beginning of that. So it's not like this video will stop things. It's more like this is what's gonna hopefully lead to something. Yeah, this is towards the bottom. He's asking what 6 things I would take. It's not clear if he's asking what I would take to the Middle Ages if I was time traveling, or I would take back from the Middle Ages. So I don't know. I mean, if I was going there, I'd take some sort of book to understand archaic English. If it even is English that I'm in. So, yeah, I would struggle because I wouldn't know the language. Do your ceilings have some shadows going on? Yeah, maybe. I have some boxes there that are just left over from packing, but I figure why not just keep them there just to break up the sound some more and the reverb. Okay, I have a question that's going to get answered completely in the next video, so I'm going to skip that. No, EA did not respond to the letters. I feel like that was a misguided attempt on my part. That's why I'm going to try and be heavier hitting this time. They're talking about, yeah, I think it was the Darkspore one I did where I tried to get EA to change their mind. I can see now that was naive on my part. I feel dumb about that, but I'm still going to keep trying. I'm going to try and hit harder this time. Do you plan to play the rest of the Halo games now that they're all coming to PC? I don't know. I mean, Halo's one of those things where it's gotten like so hyped over the years, and that I don't know. From versus what I've seen, it makes me not that hugely interested in it. And plus, I played the first one, so I kind of have an idea what to expect. So I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they're coming to PC, but yeah. Only took them what 12 years to. Cause it was what when did Halo 3 come out? Yeah. This is what I mean about Microsoft. Yeah. Halo 3, 2007. Yeah, almost 12 years to bring over Halo games to the PC. See, it strikes. That's what annoys me about Microsoft. Of course they make the Xbox, but they also make Windows. So it's just like they're making you buy another product of them because they won't support the product that you bought from them. That always rubbed me the wrong way. It's the sort of thing I feel like wouldn't happen if they weren't kind of a de facto monopoly. That's sort of the larger point I was getting at when I was mentioning that gamepad thing and the Halloween sampler video. It's not the fact that they did that. It's that this is something I don't think they would have handled it the way they did if they weren't a kind of de facto monopoly. So it's just sort of, that's a real minor thing, but it's like, it just bugs me about them. Okay, somebody's asking about if there's going to be more full motion adventure games. Maybe. I may have stumbled into some Game Dungeon material, and it could actually be the next one. We'll see. He's asking if Freeman's personality that was inspired by another character, either real or fictional. Not that I can think of. Maybe like, I don't know. Not that I can really think of. It's sometimes like delivery of lines can be maybe from a movie, but that's not the same thing as like, that's so scattered that it doesn't really congeal to sort of one type of character I'm having in mind. It's more like I'm taking some of my thoughts, exaggerating them to, well, usually to a really high degree, then trying to pretend I'm paranoid and egocentric and just, you know, have few inhibitions and just kind of trying to create something else. So. I guess I missed Polish Independence Day celebrations. If you're asking about that. Okay, somebody's saying everyone can beat Dark Souls. Well, somebody wants me to announce that they can download and play Star Control 2 for free. It's an open source project. Okay. That's one of those where, man, so many of those space games, it's like, man, I'm interested, but geez, this is going to have such a learning curve, you know? Oh man, he's asking when I play Counter-Strike if there are any maps that stood out that worth being remade for CSGO. I'm so out of the loop on Counter-Strike that I don't know if my opinion would meet much. I always liked the idea of Counter-Strike maps that would have kind of a suburban feel to them. Like, you know, there's just a nice neighborhood. There's just a barbecue going on. You know, a bunch of minivans. And just like, yeah, that's actually sort of some of the appeal. I haven't played it, but it has some appeal to me, but I don't know if I really want to get competitive at it. Again, I haven't played it for maybe Rainbow Six Siege. It sounds like, I like the idea of this nice happy neighborhood and it just terrorists taking hostages, the SWAT moving in, just smashing windows and just raising hell. I like I don't know, something I like about that image. Well, I showed in the sampler video, I think it was CS Neighborhood I used for a downloaded map of that. For all I know, it has been remade, so. Or there are maps like that already that I don't know about. I haven't played Counter-Strike in a while. I mean, that's just, even though that's part of what makes it better, I don't like having to sit out the round once you're dead. And plus, the competition on that must be just unreal by now, so. I was not aware of the 10th anniversary of Barney's Mind. I'm not aware of most anniversaries of things, so. Did you download Dungeon Siege or had an old CD and installed it? I had the old CD disc image I made before I moved here because there was too much weight to bring all my CDs, so I made disc images of just about every physical, only a handful I didn't make. Ones I either thought were like more memorable or had audio tracks on them, and I wasn't sure the best way to copy mixed mode discs, because then I thought there might be a chance of the audio skipping unless I use something like exact audio copy. So, but yeah, it was from a disc image I had. So, Okay, I think we're going on a while now. It's shorter, but it's still getting long. So I'll pick 3 more. Russ, do you maintain a list of games you want data mined? No, but that's an excellent idea. I mean, I think I'm kind of more, there's kind of 2 things I want from data mining in general. One is if it's music that is just, I have no idea how to extract it. And, you know, there's no soundtrack for it. There are utilities for that, but a lot of times they don't always work. So whereas, you know, I thought Apocalyptica was like that, but then people were immediately saying like, no, here, we got it out. So maybe I should keep maybe I should start keeping a list of that. And the other thing is just my ongoing quest for games I like, how do I get inside this game world? Maybe just pulling all the data is the best way to get to it. Or maybe the more realistic solution is the kind of AI video analysis from other games that'll convert it. So yeah, I mean, for like little secrets and hidden Easter eggs, I'm not too, it's not like a burning desire for me to know what's in there, but no, there's some other, and again, games sort of like Quarantine or maybe Test Drive where I wanted the higher resolution or like a way to uncap the frame rate or something. Okay, that's a good question. I ended up beating Secret World Legends. So somebody said it took many months of me playing it a little bit. I mean the main campaign, you know, and all the side quests and stuff. I think it's really not that good as an MMO. I think it's a much better as just a single player game, but it has a lot to like. It's kind of like, if you like the beginning, the rest of it's just kind of more of the same. It's kind of drudgery going through parts of Egypt, though. And even now, I still have some of the Tokyo music in my head. It has this like nice piano notes that, I don't know, it just really, there's a lot, it's frustrating. The game's frustrating, but it's like, there's a lot of payoff too, so, yeah. Oh, okay. So that was only 2 questions. So okay, that's enough. Okay, well, no, there's one more. Fine, this is the 3rd question by default. Have you considered Factorio as an option for a large multiplayer game with fans? No, I haven't even played it actually. So, okay, 4th, I have not seen the series The Expanse. I think I've heard of that though. I do keep a list of shows I might want to watch, but I usually don't start watching shows until like they're done. And usually, sometimes I make an exception, but so I don't. If The Expanse is still going, I probably haven't seen it. I actually started watching Dark Matter, which I kept thinking it was going to be bad, but then they keep it good enough to make it quite watchable. They go through lots of different sci-fi ideas that I'm like enjoying. So. Although I do my process, yeah, I watch all videos like this now, unless they're just great, and videos and shows. If I think the scene's getting dumb or they're just gonna talk about something that doesn't matter, and I've seen just a million, I call them canned drama scenes where it's just, we're being dramatic just to fill in the time, not because something major happened where the drama isn't earned. I just skip right through it. Like I just, you know, I'll probably skip a third of most shows that I watch. I'm spoiled by this now. So when I don't do that, that means the content's probably really good. Like I can't remember skipping anything in Dread, the movie, so. Okay, I think that's it. Again, I'm not gonna be happy if I don't have 3 videos coming out this month because I've been working a lot in the past month on some of these. So, hey, small chance we might be able to get to change history starting with the next video. We'll see. All right, that's it. Thanks for showing up. More things are coming, even though I don't think I'm ever gonna hit that regular schedule thing. Okay, bye.